little late today, you guys. Sorry, I actually was able to lay down for a little nap. I was up really early this morning. So I just want to start off by saying that we're not going to be waiting for my sister Nancy to join us today, primarily because my whole family in Florida is not going to be able to watch because they're going to be at a baby shower for my nephew Logan and his gal Kayla, who are expecting their very first child. So I'm sorry I'm not there, but I'm here with you guys instead. So we're going to do the shrimp scampi, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about a couple of our ingredients. Then we're going to get our mise en place all set up, which means everything in its place, because the shrimp scampi itself only takes about 3 minutes, 4 minutes to cook because shrimp cooks in a flash. So we want to have everything prepped and ready to go before we start. So the first thing we're going to do to get our mise en place ready is we're going to heat our chicken stock. So if you're, man, I'm not going to be able to do it on that burner. So if your chicken stock is not warmed up yet, now is a great time to do it. And you don't want it boiling, but you definitely want it hot. Now, remember, if you guys watched the Instant Pot chicken stock recipe, this is my chicken stock from that demo. I stuck it in the freezer. And I want you to see, once it cooled off, how thick and gelatinous mine is. Okay, that means I got a lot of the collagen out of the bones, which is perfect. There's one thing I did not put on the list, and it should be on your equipment list, but you're going to need a shallow pan, or I'm using a piece of Chinese Tupperware because we're going to dust the shrimp with the flour, and you're going to want something to put the flour into it. I forgot to pull it out. Okay, so let's talk about saffron. I said it was an optional ingredient, but I have it, so I'm going to use it. So saffron is incredibly expensive, and the reason it's so expensive is because it's actually the center, the little, I don't know if it's the stamen or the pistil, I think it's the stamen, of a particular type of flower that grows only in Spain. It doesn't grow anywhere else. And so saffron threads, I don't know if you could see it, but they look like the little tiny center of a flower. And it comes in a little tiny tin like this, or a little jar like this. It's very expensive, and you only need a little bit, because if you put a lot of it in, it overpowers everything else. And I pulled out my prep bowls, and I use them up here. So putting my flour right into my pan because I need an extra prep bowl. So one of the things that you have to do with saffron in particular is you have to bloom it, okay, to get it to release the most of its flavor. So we're just going to take a couple of threads of saffron, and we're going to put it in. And what it's going to do is it's going to add a really pretty color. When you see it get wet, you're going to know what I'm talking about. And it has a distinctive aroma. Now, there are other things on the market that call themselves saffron. Like this is Hungarian saffron that I actually bought in Budapest. It's a different kind of flower. It's from a sunflower. And it'll still give you that beautiful color, but it's not going to give you the unique aroma and flavor of saffron. So if you find this and you really, really only care about the color, use the saffron, use the Hungarian, it's fine. It's a lot less expensive. This is Egyptian saffron, and it's the same thing. It's a stem from or stamen rather, from a sunflower as opposed to a crocus. Okay, so now that our chicken stock is getting warm, we're going to use the chicken stock to bloom the saffron. Just a little bit. Okay, once that's ready. So the other thing we have to do as part of our prep is we have to toast our almonds. So I'm using sliced almonds. Sliced almonds are the ones that still have the skin on them, and you can see that they're two-tone. Slivered almonds are kind of cut into a rectangle, a thin rectangle, and the skin they've been blanched and the skin has been removed. Either of those are fine in this recipe, but either way, we're building a flavor ladder and toasting the almonds to change and enhance that flavor of the particular item is a great way to add to our ladder. So you're gonna want a medium hot pan, a dry pan. I'm using the exact same one, and I'm gonna put the Scampi in a little while because we're gonna wipe it out with paper towels when we're done. So once you get your almonds toasted, you wanna put them out onto a paper towel to cool, because part of the reason that we're toasting them is that we want to enhance their crunch. Toasting them improves their flavor just a little bit, and if you put them back into your prep bowl, you're kind of undoing everything that you were trying to do by toasting them, because the heat is going to get them moist. You know what I mean? It's not going to do what you want it to do. Important thing about toasting nuts, and I don't care what nut it is, you have to watch them, because they toast really quickly. So you want to constantly be shaking your pan and moving it and keeping an eye on it. All right, so our stock is just about warm, and we're just gonna put a tablespoon or so of our stock into the saffron, and we're just gonna let it sit. That's all we have to do. It's gonna do its own thing. Now, blooming spices is a great way to improve spices across the board. Sometimes you're gonna do it in oil, which is what we're gonna do with the turmeric. We're gonna do that later. Sometimes you're gonna do it in water. Sometimes you're gonna toast it in a dry pan. And all of those help the spice or the herb open up. Remember, we talked about spices and herbs and how they're two different things. So technically, saffron is an herb because it comes from the soft part of a plant. Turmeric is a spice because it comes from the hard part of the plant. This is a ground root. So turmeric is also gonna help bring out that beautiful color, but it's a much more subtle flavor than saffron, and it's great if you have arthritis. It's really great for any joint ailment. It's amazing. It's supposed to be. I don't know. I eat it because I like it, but it's also it's supposed to have great anti-inflammatory properties. A lot of people will take a fresh root and brew a tea out of it. But I just like the way it tastes. It's very subtle, very mild flavor. And again, it's just gonna make our rice look really pretty. So our nuts are just about done. You see how they're just a little bit golden? They're not black. That's what we wanted. So we're gonna put that onto our paper towel. I'm a little chaotic today, you guys, I'm so sorry. And I'm gonna, I wish you could smell this. Just the roasted, the toasted almond smell is amazing. And we're gonna wipe out our pan with another paper towel, just because we wanna get the oils that are from the almond out of here. And any leftover residual almond bits. Okay. I'm gonna put my saffron back over here. And now we're gonna start getting our garlic and our shallots ready to go. Remember I told you you're gonna need a lot of garlic today. So we're gonna do all the garlic at once because we're gonna have it with divided use, like it said in the ingredients. So I've got 6 pretty good sized cloves here. That should probably be enough, okay? So remember, flat part of the knife and just mash it. Now this particular clove of garlic, this particular bulb of garlic had a really woody stem. So I'm actually gonna cut off that hard part. Normally I just let it go, but this one's particularly woody. Remember, you were using that flat part of the knife, coming down with all of your pressure. And sometimes when you've got a particularly woody clove, if you cut the end off, the clove will basically peel itself. This one's not, but sometimes that happens. So we're just gonna, now I'm gonna separate these out now because I'm gonna want 2 cloves for the rice and the others for the scampi. Now everybody does shrimp scampi a little bit differently. We're gonna do it on a stovetop method. There's also a great broiler method, and it slightly changes the texture of the fish. And you could do this with chicken too, actually, but shrimp is the most common form of this preparation. And we've all had it in restaurants, and I will almost never order it in a restaurant because it's something that I know I can make at home. So I'm hoping to teach you guys that too, so that you never have to order it in a restaurant either. Just like I taught you the sausage and kale soup from Olive Garden, so you don't have to order that. Not that you should go eat at Olive Garden, because you know how I feel about eating at independent restaurants, which we did for the first time last night. If you guys are watching, thank you, Brian Howard and your team. Our meal was amazing. We were so happy to be there to help celebrate the 3rd anniversary of Sparrow and Wolf. And we were also celebrating my friend Gemini's birthday. So it was really a double celebration. Now, I told you about this little weirdo tool that is a unitasker. It's only good for one thing, and it's mashing up garlic. So, and I'm going to keep my garlic divided. So the stuff for the scampi is going to stay over here. And the stuff for the rice is over there. Now, I have an induction burner here, which is what that stainless saucepan's on. And I'm going to have to actually move it because the pan that I'm about to put the rice pilaf into doesn't work on an induction burner. Induction burners only work with things that are magnetic, and the pan that I'm getting ready to use is aluminum. And guess what? Aluminum doesn't have any magnetic properties, people. So if you have an induction stove, or you're thinking about getting a little portable induction burner like I have, a really great way to test your cookware to find out if it's gonna work, if a magnet sticks to it, it's gonna work. That's the easiest way. So when I was looking to buy one of these, I had to come home and put a magnet on all my cookware and figure out which ones would work. See, this doesn't stick, so it's not gonna work. So we're gonna put our rice pilaf up on here. I'm actually gonna move my warmed up chicken stock over here. I'm gonna put the lid on it because it'll stay warm enough for our purposes over there. Okay, and now we gotta do our shallot. Remember I told you, shallots are a pain in the ass, but they're perfect. They are perfect for this procedure. They're a pain in the ass to peel. We're gonna cut it lengthwise, just like we do an onion. We're gonna leave the root intact because it's a member of that same allium family. Makes it a little bit easier to slice it and dice it. If the root is intact, it kind of holds itself together, so you don't have to worry about it. Peeling shallots, it's like when you work in a professional kitchen, it's one of the punishments is to peel shallots. So if you're an asshole, you end up peeling shallots. And you don't want to waste a lot of it, but sometimes it's just more expeditious to take off that whole layer. Okay. Remember what we said about dicing. You can mince this if you wanted to, but I like uniform shapes. So this is a particularly, sorry, I get some stuff on my blade. It's skin from the garlic, sorry guys. This one's a particularly layered one. You can see it's 2 pieces there. So I'm gonna very carefully slice across, We're going to go very tiny slices across. Remember, make your fingers into a claw and tuck your thumb in because you want to not bleed when you cook it. And we're going to do the same thing with the other half. Now sometimes, like the last time I used a shallot, you guys, shallot was really large and it had a flat side, so I didn't have to cut it in half. But this one is not as large or as nice as that other one. So we're, whoops, adapting and overcoming. So now that everybody is able to go back to their dining out and they are able to enjoy going into restaurants again, I'm kind of wondering if you want me to continue doing these demos with you. I promised you one more. I promised you salt and boca, and I will do that for you. But I mean, seriously, how much do you really need my help anymore? Do you want me to still continue to do this, just maybe not as frequently? Let me know. Make a comment or shoot me a message. All right. Oh. It helps if you're smarter than your appliance. Okay. So we've got our mise en place ready to go. We've got our saffron blooming. I've got my turmeric right here. I need a little spoon for that. Yeah, like I said, you guys, it's been out. It's like super chaotic. We're going to heat up the pan because you never want to start with a cold pan. Most of the time, you don't want to start with a cold pan. There's a few things. Okay. We're going to add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. I'm putting in about 2. And I'm just using 1 cup of rice. And now we're going to add in our garlic and our shallots. Now, remember, garlic cooks quicker than onion. So we want to add the onion first in our flavor ladder. And we're just going to sweat these. And what that means is to cook it over moderate heat until it becomes translucent and starts to release some of its moisture. So think about yourself exercising when you sweat. You're releasing moisture. Well, that's what we're going to do to these shallots. And you're doing it over about medium heat. So you should hear a little bit of sizzling action going on. And once it starts to sweat and you've got a lot of movement going on in the pan, then we're going to add in our garlic and then the remaining spices. Now we're going to actually, this is one of those dishes that we're actually going to salt at the end because rice with the chicken stock and everything is going to have so much flavor to begin with that you can salt it at the end and be better prepared that way. You could add, I'll probably add a pinch of salt, but I'm not going to salt throughout the dish. Okay. Now we're putting in our garlic. And your kitchen should be starting to be smelling really good right about now. Between the toasted almonds that are behind me, you've got your onions and your shallots working, and olive oil always has such a really, for me, a very comforting aroma. So, oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, so now we're gonna turn that flame down a little bit more, and we're gonna bloom our turmeric. Now, this is a really cute spoon I picked up at San Francisco. And it's from a company called Alessi. And it's an Italian company. And they make the cutest kitchen stuff.
Watch your flame. It went right back up.
It did? Thanks, John. Gosh, you're really giving me trouble today. I might actually have to move this to the stovetop, you guys. Yeah, I'm going to have to move it to the stove because I'm not going to be able to cook it low enough on this So as soon as that saffron hits the oil, it releases more color, and you should start to smell, turmeric. As soon as the turmeric hits the oil, it's going to release its own color into the oil. It's going to flavor the oil, and it should start to smell like turmeric. So you got, so you got a really great flavor ladder building right now. Okay, you could do this with fresh turmeric too, if you've got that. I've done that, but we're using dry because that's what's in my pantry. Okay, so plain white rice. Remember when we did the risotto, I told you about all the different kinds of rice there was. You want to do this with plain white rice, and it's, the technique is pilaf. So you're going to pour your rice right into the oil, and you're going to stir it until that rice is completely coated with oil. And because you put your, if you're using the turmeric and you put the turmeric in, you're going to be able to tell whether all of your rice is coated because it's all going to be yellow, which is great. So it should be looking like that. Okay, can you see it? So you're going to keep stirring this. Now what you're doing is you are having the oil coat each grain, so that hopefully when we're done, if we've done it correctly, that it's all going to be nice and fluffy and it's going to fall, apart. It's not going to be a sticky, clumpy, gloppy mess. That's number one. Number two, the heat is helping to cook off some of the starch that's on the outside of the rice so that you're going to end up with a nice, fluffy dish. Now you don't want to brown the rice. I mean, although you do that when you're making some of the Spanish or Mexican rice dishes, or some of the Peruvian rice dishes, yes, you want to brown it. But in this case, we don't. We just want to make sure that our rice is well heated through, that the starch is starting to cook off the outside, and that it's completely coated with the oil. Now you're going to know that your rice is, the starch is cooking off, because your rice is going to go from being semi-transparent, because if you looked at those, they were kind of a little transparent, to very opaque. They're going to start to change the way that the outside looks. And I can't describe it to you any better than that, except to tell you that it looks more solid. So if we were doing this without the turmeric, it would look more white, as opposed to more opal, if that makes sense. I hope that it does. Do we have any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Cool. How many people we got watching?
You've been bouncing around between 10 and a dozen.
Yeah. Because a lot of the people that normally watch us are my family. And like I said, they're all at a baby shower. Okay. So we don't want to brown our rice or our shallots. I'm actually going to shut this flame off because I'm going to end up having to move it over to that stove where I can control the heat a little bit. And we're going to put in 2 cups of that hot chicken stock. And we're going to reserve the rest for later. Okay, now is when we're going to put in our bloomed saffron, if you're using that. You can hear it hit. That's just the liquid. And it's going to absorb it like right away because it's not that much. Stir it in batches if you have to. There. Oh man. Does that smell good, babe?
Yes, it does.
We're going to add just a pinch of salt. I used 3 fingers on my thumb. Alright. Now I'm going to cover this. And I'm going to actually put it on the other stove because this burn's not cooperating. And we're going to put it on low heat for 20 minutes. Okay. So now we're going to talk about our shrimp. All right. I like frozen shrimp because they're easy to hang on to. They thaw out really quickly. And they're a great source of really lean protein. So you can use them in a number of dishes. We did crepes with them and the creamed spinach. And my friend Lori told me that she actually has made them like a dozen times since I did the demo. So yay, Lori. So these shrimp are fairly large. These ones are 16 to 20s, which means there's 16 to 20 of them in a pound. And they have been split and deveined down the back. But on this particular large shrimp, there's also a vein on the bottom. So I like to take my little knife and make a little cut and just pull out that other vein. I don't want to eat this, okay? Now, I like to pinch the tail and pull it completely off because even though when you get it in the restaurant, it has the tail on it because it looks pretty, I don't care. I just don't care. I don't want to be messing with it when it comes time to eat. I just don't want to have to mess around with it. So
especially not after it's hot.
Yeah, exactly. So if your shrimp are whole and not peeled and deveined, you're going to take your knife and you're going to make an incision straight down the back. You're going to lift out that vein and put it to the side because you don't want to eat that. Then you're going to peel your shrimp from the back out. And the legs should pop right off. Now you'll notice instead of throwing out my shells, I'm keeping them in a separate little container over here because I will put them in the freezer with the other shells that I have until I have enough to make shrimp stock. And I do it in the Instant Pot just like I did the chicken stock. Okay? And then, but you need a lot more shrimp. You need a lot more shells than you do bones. Like you need quite a bit. Or just use less water. So, if you have questions about that, feel free to ask me. That one came out really easy. So not all shrimp have that great big additional vein in it. Sometimes they're purged at the fishery, so it's cleaned out before you get it. In this case, they weren't.
And if you don't like messing with it, you can always look for raw P&D shrimp.
Right.
And that means peeled and deveined.
That's correct. So whenever you're looking at shrimp, the bigger the number, that means there's more shrimp per pound. So sometimes you'll see, and this is true for scallops too, you'll see them listed as U10 or U6. That means there's under 10 or under 6 in a pound. And those are going to be the giganto ones, the really awesome ones that you use for fancy shrimp cocktail. Or in some cases, you'll like stuff them like langostinos or like a lobster. You know what I mean? You'll open them up and they'll be huge. See, we have all the time in the world to get this all taken care of because we're waiting on our rice. So that's part of the idea of getting all your stuff in order. So we did everything for our rice first, started our rice because it takes longer, and now we are doing the shrimp. Now you'll notice I'm holding my bird beak knife the way I told you not to. Paring knives are a little bit different than chef's knives. Some people hold them with their finger on the tip like that. Sometimes I'll hold it this way. It depends on the blade and what my job is. But when it comes to this, holding it like that is not effective. You guys are really quiet today. Maybe because the noisy people who normally make a lot of comments aren't watching. Like my friend.
You've had a couple of comments.
Okay.
Basically, hi, I'm here. And,
oh, good. Who's there?
let's see. Who has chimed in most recently is Bonnie, Ophelia Knightley.
Hello, Bon.
Gail Byers.
Hi, Gail.
Let's see.
Gail and I met on our Egypt cruise when John and I went to Egypt last year.
Lori and Lynn have chimed in.
Hi, girls.
Bonnie Walsh, my cousin.
Oh, hey, Bon. We got a couple Bonnies, great.
Janet West.
Janet, oh, I hope you're feeling better, Janet.
And Deb.
Popola.
Yes.
Love that Deb Popola. Okay, so back to our paper towels that we want to clean off.
And Marie Clark.
Hi, Marie. You don't need to be watching. You know how to do this.
And Debbie Klaus.
Oh, hi, Debbie. Yeah, you were excited about this recipe, so I'm glad you're watching. Okay. I'm going to take another paper towel and I'm going to pat our shrimp dry. Now, we're doing this for a couple different reasons. One, we don't want the extra moisture because we want to try to get a nice crispy coating on the outside of our shrimp. And two, the flour that we're about to dredge it in, oddly enough, will stick better when your protein is dry. It does not make sense, but it's true. If your shrimp or your chicken or whatever you're getting ready to dredge in flour is really wet, it just makes a gloppy mess. You don't get a nice clean coating. So when we did the chicken piccata, I told you the same thing, pat your chicken dry, because we want to get as much of the moisture off as possible.
Yeah, the proteins will hang on to just enough moisture to keep the outside tacky, but not really wet.
Soaking wet. And you could see it starts to look more matte than gloss at this point because we've taken all the moisture off. I'm going to set these aside. And I'm going to go wash my hands because I touched raw fish and I don't want to touch other things.
So also folks who chimed in, Nancy Mason.
Hi, Nancy. Okay. The other nice thing about this particular cutting board that I'm using is that it's double-sided. So later on when I go to prep our parsley, I'm just going to flip it over and use the other side, which is going to be clean and free from shrimp guts. Okay, so here's our flour. I have a little bit more than 2 tablespoons in here. It's just because I was running late and I didn't measure it and I just dumped it in. So we're going to put a good healthy pinch of salt in there. I'm using all 4 of my fingers and my thumb twice. Okay, and we need some black pepper. I'm sorry, I grabbed the white, so that's what I'm using. Either one's fine. Just about 8 or 10 grinds. And I'm just going to mix this. You can use a whisk, you can use a fork, you can use your fingers, it doesn't matter. And we're going to pop our shrimp right in there. Now, this is not traditional, okay? This is just the way I do it because I like a little bit of extra sauce. And this, combined with the olive oil, is going to actually make a roux and thicken up our sauce a little bit. See how it's just very lightly coated? And I also said, when I wrote out your list, that if you wanted to do this gluten-free, you could do it with rice flour and it would work just perfectly fine. Another thing I talked about in the ingredient list, my friend Lillian asked if she could do the pilaf with brown rice. Yes, you can, but you have to start it with cooked brown rice because the cooking times are very, very, very different. So if you're using the cooked brown rice, basically you're going to create that seasoning mix with the garlic and the shallot and the turmeric and the saffron. You get that all warm. Throw your brown rice in, stir it, stir it, stir it, stir it, stir it. Add a little bit of chicken stock for flavor and for moisture. Cover it, take it off the pan, and you're good to go. Okay, because you don't have to cook it, it's already cooked. But you want to make sure it's hot. Now you'll notice I'm spanking these shrimp because I want to get as much of the excess flour off as possible. And I'm also checking them to make sure all the little nooks and crannies are coated.
I hope that shrimp spanking does not change the rating on your YouTube channel.
It does not. I already say it's not for children. Because we all know that Aunt Leanne has a potty mouth, and occasionally profanity slips from between my lips. Okay, so we've got all of our mise en place right. This is perfect timing. Put your pan on, and you kind of want it on medium-high. You want to get your pan good and hot before you do anything else. And we're going to work very quickly here because we have 9 minutes until the rice is done. All right, here is I'm using my tongs. You can use whatever you want, but I'm using the tongs. Wait for the pan to get hot. Then we're going to add the olive oil in, get that to shimmering, add our garlic in, let that not brown, but you want to sweat it again. And then we're going to put our shrimp in one at a time because they only take 3 minutes. When they turn pink, they're done. So if you're looking at a shrimp and it is closed up like this and it looks like a letter O, that means it's overcooked. O for overcooked. If it's open a little bit still between the tail and the top, that means it's cooked. So this, we don't want it to go like that. We want it to be back here. So that's C for cooked, O for overdone. The guy at a shrimp farm taught me that. So adding in our olive oil, again, a couple tablespoons. And you want to wait until it starts to shimmer. Now with an induction burner, every time I pick it up, it tells me that something's off the burner to let me know that it's still plugged in, it's still on. Wait for it to shimmer. Oh, that's looking good. We're going to put our garlic on in. This seems like an awful lot of garlic for just 10 shrimp. But Scampi is all about the garlic, you know? You can't skimp on it. Otherwise, it's just sauteed shrimp. It smells delightful. And it looks like a lot of garlic in the pan, too. Okay. Keep your pan moving as much as possible, or keep moving the ingredients that are in there to keep that garlic from burning. Now we're going to add our shrimp one at a time. Keep in mind, when you add things to the pan, you're reducing the temperature of the pan. Just realized one more ingredient that I forgot, which is the wine. But I'll go and get that while these cook on the first side. I said Pinot Grigio would work really well here, and it does. This is just a screw top version. You'll find, even looking at some of the really more well-known wineries, that they're starting to go with the screw top. See how pretty and pink that is? Look it. It's gorgeous. We're just going to flip them over. A lot of them are starting to go to a screw top or plastic corks because they're finding that they're way better for the environment. Surprisingly, plastic is better for the environment than the cork. And secondly, it does a better job of preserving the wine and keeping the wine at optimum condition through shipment, delivery, storage. Whereas the cork, sometimes it'll split or it'll have holes in it and it'll allow air to get in at the wine, which ruins the flavor. The screw top and the cork and the plastic cork don't. Okay, so you've got these on. You should notice that a lot of your oil has bound to your flour. And now is when we add our wine. We're going to deglaze the pan. Now, for those of you that do not drink, this is an optional step, but I think it's a critical one. Remember, we're going to bring this to a boil, and all of alcohol in the wine is going to cook off. So you're not going to be getting any alcohol in your mouth.
So if someone chooses not to use wine, what can they use instead?
Nothing.
Okay.
Just stick this stuff. I put 3 or 4 ounces of wine in there. We just want enough to coat the bottom of the pan. And you'll see how it cooked right off? All the alcohol's gone. But it leaves behind that beautiful wine flavor. And if you don't let it get to this point where you have cooked all the liquid out, all you're going to taste is wine. So take the time. Slow down. As some of my chef friends say, cook slow, cook fast. Well, this is a slow it down situation. Now you can lower the temperature on your pan right about now. And now we're going to add in our leftover chicken stock to make the extra sauce that I like. And again, this is not traditional. This is the way I like it. There's a gazillion ways to make shrimp scampi, and this is just my version of it. So you always want to taste to make sure your seasoning is good. Oh yeah, that's good. I put just the right amount of salt in that flour. I don't even have to add salt to this dish. Imagine that. Okay, so our flavor ladder for the rice pilaf was our olive oil, our shallots, our garlic. Then we added in our herbs and spices, our saffron and our turmeric. Not in that order, remember, we did the turmeric first. And then our chicken stock is going to help round that out. And according to my handy dandy timer, I've got 2 minutes left on that. And our shrimp is basically done. Just waiting for, shut it off. Waiting for the sauce to thicken up a little bit. Now here's where we're going to use our lemon. This is a big lemon. And it smells very floral because it is fresh from here in Vegas. And my friend Leslie Albers has this tree that overproduced this year, so she was kind enough to share it with me. You want to make sure you get your seeds out. And it's always a good practice to squeeze it over your hand, just in case there's extra seeds in there. Because your fingers will act like a sieve. And now we're going to finish the dish. With some fresh parsley. Okay.
Can you slide your salt forward so
yeah.
we can see the plate a little bit better, or the prep surface a little bit better? Thank you.
Thank you, babe. All right. So remember what I told you about doing parsley. You're going to make a bouquet in your hand with the leaves sticking up. And we don't need a whole ton of parsley. We just need enough to add a fresh note to it, to the dish, and give it a little bit of color. We're going to snap off our stems and set them aside for another use. We use them in our stocks, remember? It adds a parsley flavor without using up the good leafy part that you want to use as an herb. And if you've got the tender stems in there, of course, that's perfectly fine. They have tons of flavor. They're not woody. They're not going to get stuck in your teeth or, change the texture of the dish at all. Put it in a nice pile. And you don't want it super fine, but you want it more than just big fat honkin' leaves. Okay, that's my timer for the rice. I'll stir that in just a minute. Okay. So your rice at this point should have absorbed all of your liquid, or most of it at this point. Where did I put my, oh, God, sorry you guys, I'm super chaotic today. All right. Now we're gonna add in our peas. Frozen peas are already cooked. So all we're really doing here is putting them in there to take the chill off them. We're gonna cover that back up and let the heat from the pan do its job. Just splashed it on myself. Oh, these look really good. Can you guys see how pretty those are? Look at that. Yummy. All right, I'm gonna get plates down for John and I, because we're gonna start plating in about 45 seconds. This is a super fast recipe. I'm just gonna use small plates. Now you can add more lemon if you like it lemonier. I really want the garlic to stand out, so the lemon's just an adjunct, additional flavor for me. Now remember, you're not scraping your knife blade across the board. Just the back of the knife. Oh, this looks so pretty. Great, beautiful pop of green.
And you got your almonds back there still.
I got my almonds. They're getting ready to go right in. We're going to put some fresh parsley in here as well. We're going to pick up our almonds. And again, we're putting this in for crunch and texture. And you're just going to fold it in. You're just going to gently go around the outside of the pan and flip it from the bottom to the top. Delicious. Okay, so all we're gonna do is we're gonna take our rice. See how it falls apart? It's like it's not a great big clump of rice. It falls off my spoon. That's what you're supposed to do. It's not supposed to be like wallpaper paste, you know? But coating it with the oil helps that procedure. So we're just gonna nestle our shrimps right up next to our rice. Come on, you. Get up there. I want you to act like you like each other. And now we're just going to put our sauce down. Look at all that gorgeous sauce. Ooh. Now I did tell you to have some butter on hand, and I just totally almost forgot to put it into our dish. So let's just quick put our pan back on just for a second, because we're going to put some butter in here. We're going to let the heat of the pan melt the butter. We don't want the flame to melt the butter. And this kind of just adds a little silkiness to the sauce. And I added roughly a tablespoon. And when you add the butter off the heat and let the pan do the work, it's called mont au beurre. It's French for melt the butter. Go figure. Learn all these fancy tricks. But what it does, if you don't have the pan on, the butter melts very slowly into the sauce, and it makes it glossy like that. Okay? because the sauce itself was still hot. And we're just gonna do. I like a little extra sauce because I'm hoping to pick up some of it with my rice because I love the garlic. And that's it, you guys are done. See how easy that was? Now you can serve this alongside a salad, of course. You could serve it with, we have some leftover chilled asparagus. I'm probably going to pull that out of the refrigerator for us to eat. Whatever vegetable you like. But look at the beautiful colors. You've got the gorgeous pinkness. This is a sloppy plate. Sorry, you guys. Gorgeous pinkness from the shrimp. You've got the green from the peas and the parsley. The sauce looks beautiful. And I tasted the sauce. I tasted the rice. Everything tastes well balanced and properly salted. So, like Julia Child would say, bon appetit. But I want you to comment. Let me know if you want me to continue doing these. I just won't do them as frequently. I am going to do the saltimbocca, not this next Saturday, but 2 weeks from today. I'm going to do saltimbocca as a live demo. And I'll give you options on Tuesday, of course, with your shopping list. I will be going live with some sort of kitchen demo, like 30 minutes on this coming Wednesday. And I'll let you know on Facebook what that's going to be. So thanks. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday and have a fantastic weekend. And wash your hands.